Oh, would you look at this?
Yeah, well...
Would you look at that?
Yeah, there's a few more blemishes on the car.
Oh my gosh, just look at it.
The car is not perfect.
Just look at it. Just look at it.
Yeah, well...
What the heck is that?
When the Order 1886 came out, it was just getting hit with lots of harsh criticism from players, from critics, all around, and I played it upon release. And I did share some of the criticism that a lot of people have mentioned with the game, but I feel like a lot of people failed to mention some of the really good aspects of the game. So that's why I felt compelled to do a review on this game. Yeah, it is older, but hey, let's talk about the Order 1886. So you're in an alternate version of London, kind of steampunkish, and you play as a character named Grayson, who's taken on the name of Galahad in King Arthur's Knights, and King Arthur's Knights have been battling Lycans for a long time. So that's kind of a little bit of the backstory there. I do like that they incorporate some of the King Arthur-ness into the game, and what I like about the narrative in this is it just kind of throws you into it. There's not any overly abundant exposition scenes within the game. There's some to kind of fill you in with some stuff that's going on, but there's not a lot, and for the most part it just keeps moving and you start learning about the world as you're experiencing the adventure. I like that, instead of just everyone just sitting down and be like, we're gonna have some tea and you're going to then tell me about the story and I will sip it as you tell me. I like how we're always in it. It's really interesting because it keeps us continually involved in the narrative and doesn't halt it to be like, well, hold on, let me explain. So the story does spend a lot of time planting seeds for future installments and other revelations and stuff to come, because they're really getting you acclimated to this world throughout this adventure. And I do hope we do get a sequel, because there's a lot of loose ends in this game, and I particularly enjoy the narrative, and I'd like to see where it goes. It's different in a good way, and it is engaging. It is very forward moving. It is just continually pushing you to the end of the game. Like, it's practically kicking your ass to be like, hey, you get to that next mission. Hurry on there. Let's talk about the graphics. This game is gorgeous. I played this when it first came out, and I mean, it's a looker. It really is. When I first played it, I'm like, oh my god, I'm playing like a CGI movie. Like, just the quality and like the character animations and how they look. Best damn mustaches I've seen this generation. Like, the best mustaches I've seen. A very good looking game. And it's a stunner. You pop that thing in, you're just like, wow, that's pretty. So the gameplay, it's kind of broken up into these different chunks. You got your shooting bits, those are a lot of fun. You have your slow walking sections where you kind of jump through areas and the game loads, I think, in the background, and there's a lot of, oh my god, move quicker, seriously, there's a state of urgency going on, we need to stop these werewolves, but you're slowly walking throughout the environment. There's looking at stuff. What's that? Oh, well, that's where you go in the game. You pick up a piece of paper or an object, and your character is like, oh my god, and you can spin it around and look at it. You just keep looking at it all the time. There's even a point in the game where the main character, he has never seen fruit before, and you are given an apple, and he's like, what is this strange object? Oh my god, I bet it would be great in a pie. And then you throw it at an individual. I don't know why he didn't bake a pie. I would have loved that part in the game. The part where you play as Galahad and bake pies for the other knights at the round table and then have a picnic. And then there's some stealth sections. Now, I really like the shooting in the game. The camera like almost hugs the back of Galahad. Usually there's some space between like the camera and the player a bit, but it's like really on them to the point where you're in cover, you can't see over the cover. You kind of can only see what Galahad can see. And I like this because it does add a certain level of intensity to it. And it is kind of neat because you peek over the cover and you're trying to be able to see if the guy's like out or not. And I like this. I know some people had some problems with it, and they may not like it as I have liked it in this game. But I do think it helps to add to the intensity. It's almost as if the action scenes are playing out with like handheld cam, and you are right there with them, like documentary style. You are in the fight with them all. So you get some really cool guns in this game. And Nikola Tesla is effectively your Q in this version of the game. You know, like in James Bond, he's like makes all the cool stuff for you. And here you get a lightning gun in the game. This is extremely satisfying to use. It takes some time to charge that sucker up, but then when you let loose it on an enemy, I mean, if you hit him in the head's gone. Hit him in the arm's gone. You hit him in the body. The amount of detail in this game for the shootouts, it's disgusting, but it's also really satisfying too, because you like hit the guy and you can like see his rib cage and everything. I'm like, but that's satisfying. And you also get rocket launchers and grenade launchers. And you get this really cool gun where you basically spray a bunch of gas and then you can fire a flare into it and it'll light everyone on fire that's in that area. I thought that was really cool to use. One of my favorite guns in the game, it's simplistic, but it gets the job done, is one of the assault rifles. But it has this undermounted fart gun that's attached to it. So basically if an enemy's coming at you, you can like pop off a fart right at them and it stuns them a little bit. It hits them with compressed air, but hey, you know, I think it's just funnier to call it a fart gun. So you hit them with that and they're like, oh my God, the smells and the force of the fart. And then you pop out of cover and you start banging on the guy with your gun. I thought that was extremely satisfying because you can blind fire the sucker while you're over cover and then pop out and hit him with it. My favorite gun in the game. You also get shotguns, 2 varieties of that, and some pistols too. You also get a neat ability where it kind of goes into a bit of slow-mo and you turn into like a sick-ass gunslinger and you just start pop, 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 and you start hitting everybody around the room. This was really cool. I'd love to see it in Western games too. So overall, I enjoyed the story and I really enjoyed the shooting bits. So let's get into a bit of the negatives and criticisms with this game, or at least stuff that I share with it. I think one of the biggest problems with the Order, at least for the first half, is the pacing and how the game is done. So the cutscenes are good, but when you finally have control of the game and you are in the shootouts, they're way too short for the first half of the game. You just start getting into the fight and then the fight ends. I think what would have helped is if you had more elongated action sequences within the Order for the first half. It would have definitely helped. So instead of having the firefight end shortly, extend it out, double the length, even triple it at some instances in the game. I think that would have helped because you start slow walking into an area, you shoot a bunch of guys and you're like, oh, I'm really enjoying the shooting, and then they take control away from you again because you're like, oh, I just want to shoot, and then they want you to be like, oh, pick up these items and just look at them a bunch. You're doing that a lot for the first half of the game. Lots of looking at things, lots of slow walking and stuff like that. Now I'm okay with slow walking in games if they want to give the character time to breathe after an extended action sequence. So it's like, okay, all right, we're gonna bring him back down a little bit, do a little bit of the story, player gets to then, oh, okay, I'm at a calm level, and then hit them again with another high with now an extended action sequences. I'm okay with those peaks and valleys, so you can have walking sequences work in your game. It's just the first half had a little too much of that. Now, once you hit the bridge section in the game, it pretty much just flies to the end. It's got much better pacing. It's improved from beginning to end. From that middle point onward, oh, it's much better than the first half. Second half is stronger than the first half in this game. You get extended shootouts. You get a lot less looking at stuff. That's the other thing that I like. It's, you know, it's not like the game just stops and it's like, what's this? It's a piece of paper, haha. Here it's like, oh, okay, I'll look at this cool new gun, a crossbow that I had, that's all right. And then you just go back to shooting things and enjoying the story. So I will say, pacing issues a bit in the beginning, but does kind of even itself out halfway through the game. While I enjoyed the shooting sections and using all the neat guns in the game, and I did feel like the shooting did feel good as you're playing it, I do wish that the AI was a bit smarter in this game. You got your soldiers that kind of just sit there and they just pop up and they pop back down. I wish more of them tried to flank you or do some other tactics to kind of spice up the AI fighting a bit. It just kind of makes the fighting more interesting. So I would have loved to see something like that in the game. Also, I do enjoy that there's 2 stealth sections in the game. I like this because it does change up the pacing a bit in terms of you're not just always shooting or whatever, and it's a different gameplay section because I don't really count strutting through the environment and looking at things as gameplay. But the stealth is neat because it's just a different take on it, so it's a different style of pacing for your fighting. There's just some weird things with the stealth. So you can hit triangle and do this instant takedown button whenever you're in firefights, and you'll just take guys down in these cool styles and all that jazz. But when you're in a stealth situation and you want to take down an enemy, it turns into a QuickTime event, and I'm like, why? We're doing the same thing here. Why are we turning into this? And if you mess up the QuickTime event, you instantly fail the stealth section. And that's the thing that does bug me about the stealth sections. They're instant fail sections. So if you get caught, you're done. It's not that you get caught and now you have to adapt to the situation. If you've seen any of my prior videos before, I prefer that style when you're doing stealth. Let me be like, oh crap, I got caught. Now I have to take on like a horde of enemies. Instead of be like, no, you got caught, you failed, and we're gonna let you know you failed, and we're gonna shame you by restarting you back to the checkpoint. Instead of just, oh, you got failed, now you have to fight a bunch more enemies and figure out how to get out of it. I prefer the adaptive stealth than being so rigid with your rules here. But for the second stealth section in the game, what I really liked is you're in this big garden. It's probably the only part in the game that really lets off the rails, and you're in a big area for the Order. It's a big area, and you kind of have to wander around and find a key. But you have to take enemies out. It still has that insta-fail crap that I don't like, but what's neat about this section is it's a much bigger environment. Think about something from The Last of Us, and I think it's fantastic. I really enjoy it. The lighting and like going in at nighttime, I really enjoy this, and I think if the game had more sections like these in the game, without the instant fail stuff, but more stealth sections that were bigger like this, where you kind of really got to explore an environment and potentially maybe take different routes while you're going through it, I think it would have helped more replay for the Order and really help extend out more of those action scenes like I was talking about before. It would just help the game and not hinder it. So I would have liked to have seen more stuff like that. The other thing I'll say is the game needed more variety in when you're taking on the Lycans, because pretty much most of those sequences just play out all the same throughout the game, is that they kind of peek their head out from the side and then they start chasing at you, you shoot, dodge, and then you kind of rinse and repeat, and that's how those fights are all the time. Now what would have been neat is if they had different Lycan situations, make them different set pieces. Have a really awesome one where you're getting chased by a bunch of Lycans and you finally get a hold of a grenade launcher and you just go nuts on all of them. There is a part in the game where you use a grenade launcher and just go nuts on a bunch of humans, but do that with the Lycans and have that feed into the chase, so it's like you feel really vulnerable as they're coming at you because they can take you out, but once you get the rocket launcher you feel really empowered at that moment, and that would be really cool if they included just something like that. Vary up your encounters, because the Lycans are a really cool enemy and it changes up the style a bit too. Just do it a bit differently. Now the two boss fight encounters in this game where you kind of have a mano with a Lycan, I think they should have changed that up, because the first time you fight it, it's neat, it's kind of quick-timey, you know, you play God of War, it's a little bit like that, lots of cutscenes, a lot of quick time events. But when you fight another Lycan later in the game, mano a mano, it's the same fight again. It's copy and paste. I would have liked something a little bit different, like maybe me even having different melee weapons while I'm fighting this Lycan, or something like that. Just change it up a bit. That would be my only thing. It felt copy and paste. While it was a lot of fun to fight it the first time, and still fun the second time, but don't bookend your game with the final fight being a recycled fight from earlier in the game. Give me something new and really strong. Another thing that's a big criticism with the game is there's not much game to this game. Well, outside of just beating the campaign. So you got the campaign, that's gonna take you about 5 to 6 hours, but there's no extra modes. And I know that there are people out there that will go back and play through the story again. I am one of those weird people. I enjoy going through it. I've played the Order now 3 times, and I'll probably do a 4th or a 5th. Probably next year and the year after that. I do enjoy playing it. But I do think it needed more modes. Like, just simple stuff would have helped to increase the replay value in this game. Like, give me a time trial mode. Going through the game, you have to hit certain amount of times, and then have some type of challenge mode in it. I am going to be doing a video where I kind of talk about potential ideas that would have helped to improve the replay value for the Order, or for the potential sequel. I do really hope we get a sequel. But yeah, I feel like the game, it just needed more game to the game. And I think what would have helped at least extend out the length of the game is, like I was talking about before, the second half of the game starts getting more extended shootouts and betters the pacing. So at that point, I think they should have added more extended gameplay sections to the game. Gameplay where you would have before be a certain length, make it longer. Or in the beginning, beef out a lot of the beginning stuff and make those sections longer. Then kind of push out your 6-hour campaign is now to an 8 or a 9-hour campaign. But not with more cutscenes, it has more gameplay, it's got more game to it, and you're shooting and you're playing it. I think that would have really helped the Order. Now, after talking about all the negatives, I do want to say again, because I want to end on a high, I did enjoy my experience with the Order. I do think if you own a PS4, you should try it. It's a lot of fun. It's cheap now, and it's great. I mean, if you got like a Friday night free, you want to enjoy a good narrative with some good shooting, yeah, you're gonna have a great time with it. Is it perfect? No. But that's why I hope that they get a chance for a sequel to be able to really refine this game, and better yet, be able to continue the story. There's a lot of interesting developments that happen throughout the game, and I think this world is definitely worth exploring. At the same time too, I really like that developers try something new. This is a brand new IP, not a sequel or anything like that. And you know, not everyone's gonna get it right the first time. So I'm willing to say, give them another shot at it, and it will keep getting better. Hopefully they really refine on it. A good example of this is I wasn't the biggest fan of Killzone when it came out. I felt like the second game was better than the first. I felt like in some areas the third game was better than the second, and then when Shadowfall came out, me personally, I really loved that game, and I felt like Guerrilla as a studio kept getting better and kept learning as they kept going along. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they should just get it right the first time. Well, not everyone's gonna have that, and I'm willing to be like, hey, you guys want to give another crack at it? Then I'd like to give you that opportunity and try to go into the next game being able to judge that on its own merits and not any expectations. So I hope they get a second chance at the Order, because I'd really like to see where this franchise goes. And I want to say thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe. And I'll see you next time.